Something bad is bound to happen to me. I don't know what I feel it coming. Might be so sad, might leave my nose running. I just hope she don't wanna leave me. Don't you give me up, please don't give up on me. I belong with you only.
So, my previous video managed to garner some attention. It wasn't exactly a smash hit like some of my videos from the past, but considering the size of my channel, I'd say it performed fairly well. But one thing that I noticed as I was looking at the analytics was that it actually gained a surprising amount of traction for my segment about the Blood Meridian. I thought because I primarily make Sword Art Online content, and that's what usually gets my channel the most attention in the YouTube algorithm, that would have been the main reason for the video's success. As well as the fact that I was making a response video to a larger channel. But apparently the Blood Meridian was what reached the most people and the main reason why people tuned in. So I figured this would be a good chance to talk a little more in depth with the story, specifically the character of Judge Holden. Now, if you've been on TikTok or even YouTube, then you've probably seen this character's face before. The Blood Meridian, as well as other fictional works like I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, have had a bit of a surreal resurgence in popularity recently with the rise of shorts and edits. You've probably come across some of these edits discussing the most evil characters in all of fiction, and in almost every single one, the Judge makes an appearance. And there's a good reason for that. Characters like the Judge and Am are thrown around a lot when discussing the greatest villains in literature, and while there definitely are some strong contenders like Am, the Judge is probably the one who truly lives up to that title. Judge Holden is a character that is shrouded in mystery. As far as his backstory goes, we know little to nothing about him. We know he's incredibly talented and educated, but we really don't have any details of his past life before joining the Clanton gang. His upbringing, his prospects in life, it's almost as if he was just always there. The book even goes as far as to describe him as such. When the Clanton gang finds him, he greets them with a smile as if he was waiting for them. Now, some people have speculated that he might be some kind of demon or spiritual entity, but honestly, that idea actually takes a lot away from his character. I think Cormac McCarthy intended for the Judge to have an unsettling and almost inhuman-like appearance as a sort of red herring. The idea that he is human means that other humans are also capable of what he demonstrates throughout the story, which makes his character especially haunting. McCarthy even based the Judge on a real-life person from a memoir written by Samuel Chamberlain called My Confession. Now, obviously, McCarthy amplified his character, but many of the horrific acts the Judge commits in the book are also committed by the real-life Holden. So why exactly is the Judge so evil? While it is easy to point to specific actions of his, like falsely accusing a priest of horrific crimes and literally torturing puppies, it's his philosophy that's particularly eerie. He explains himself perfectly in the scene around the campfire where he gives his speech about games and war.
"It makes no difference what men think of war," said the Judge. "War endures. As well ask men what they think of stone. War was always here. Before man was, war waited for him. The ultimate trade awaiting its ultimate practitioner. That is the way it was and will be. That way and not some other way." He turned to Brown, from whom he'd heard some whispered slur or demur. "Ah, Davy," he said. "It's your own trade we honor here. Why not rather take a small bow? Let each acknowledge each. My trade? Certainly. What is my trade? War. War is our trade, is it not? And it ain't yours? Mine too, very much so. What about all them notebooks and bones and stuff? All other trades are contained in that of war. Is that why war endures? No. It endures because young men love it, and old men love it in them. Those that fought, those that did not. That's your notion. The judge smiled. Men are born for games, nothing else. Every child knows that play is nobler than work. He knows, too, that the worth or merit of a game is not inherent in the game itself, but rather in the value of that which is put at hazard. Games of chance require a wager to have meaning at all. Games of sport involve the skill and strength of the opponents, and the humiliation of defeat and the pride of victory are in themselves sufficient stake, because they inhere in the worth of the principles and define them. But trial of chance or trial of worth, all games aspire to the condition of war. For here, that which is wagered swallows up game, player, all. Suppose two men at cards with nothing to wager save their lives. Who has not heard such a tale? A turn of the card. The whole universe for such a player has labored clanking to this moment, which will tell if he is to die at that man's hand or that man at his. What more certain validation of a man's worth could there be? This enhancement of the game to its ultimate state admits no argument concerning the notion of fate. The selection of one man over another is a preference absolute and irrevocable. And it is a dull man indeed who could reckon so profound a decision without agency or significance, either one. In such games as have for their stake the annihilation of the defeated, the decisions are quite clear. This man, holding this particular arrangement of cards in his hand, is thereby removed from existence. This is the nature of war, whose stake is at once the game and the authority and the justification. Seen so, war is the truest form of divination. It is the testing of one's will and the will of another within that larger will, which, because it binds them, is therefore forced to select. War is the ultimate game, because war is at last a forcing of the unity of existence. War is God.
Men are competitive by nature. They love the feeling of winning and hate the feeling of losing. The higher the stakes are, the more satisfying the victory is, which is why he views war as the ultimate game. It's a battle of wits, strength, and will, a fight for survival. War is the game with the highest stakes and the richest rewards. You'll either be celebrated as a hero and remembered throughout history as a saint, or die in a ditch and your enemy will write your history. The judge even points out the fact that history is always written by the winners.
Might does not make right, said Irving. The man that wins in some combat is not vindicated morally. Moral law is an invention of mankind for the disenfranchisement of the powerful in favor of the weak. Historical law subverts it at every turn. A moral view can never be proven right or wrong by any ultimate test. A man falling dead in a duel is not thought thereby to be proven in error as to his views. His very involvement in such a trial gives evidence of a new and broader view. The willingness of the principals to forego further argument as the triviality which it in fact is, and to petition directly the chambers of the historical absolute, clearly indicates of how little moment are the opinions, and of what great moment the divergences thereof. For the argument is indeed trivial, but not so the separate wills thereby made manifest. Man's vanity may well approach the infinite in capacity, but his knowledge remains imperfect, And however much he comes to value his judgments, ultimately he must submit them before a higher court. Here, there can be no special pleading. Here are considerations of equity and rectitude and moral right rendered void and without warrant. And here are the views of the litigants despised. Decisions of life and death, of what shall be and what shall not, beggar all questions of right. In elections of these magnitudes are all lesser ones subsumed, moral, spiritual, natural.
Stories like V for Vendetta strongly affirm the philosophy that ideas are bulletproof, but the Blood Meridian seems to challenge that notion. Not because Cormac McCarthy morally disagrees with Alan Moore, but because the world is a cruel place that doesn't care about morality or ideas. Only winners. This is why the judge is such an amoral person. He doesn't worry himself with such things because to him they're trivial. The only thing that matters to him is survival of the fittest. The best way I can describe him is if he were a more sophisticated version of the Joker, specifically the Heath Ledger iteration of the character. The Joker describes himself as an agent of chaos, and even goes as far as to say that chaos is fair, so there's no point in being mad over it, because it has no personal bias or agenda, and rather than fight it, it's just best to embrace it.
Introduce a little anarchy. Upset the established order, and everything becomes chaos. I'm an agent of chaos. Oh, and you know the thing about chaos? It's fair.
Judge Holden very much holds a similar philosophy. The judge believes that things like love and compassion are weak and unnatural, and humanity should embrace their animalistic and destructive nature. And the worst part is no amount of arguing or reasoning will convince him otherwise. The judge is an extremely intelligent individual and is capable of holding a civil conversation and articulate himself very effectively, but he makes it very clear he does not care about rhyme or reason. The only way to reach him is to play him at his own game, which is no easy task because the judge excels at almost everything. He's able to learn a new language on the fly. He has a very charismatic personality and can convince people to believe practically anything, no matter how false or fallacious it may be, in spite of his unsettling appearance. I mean, for crying out loud, this guy even managed to make homemade gunpowder and turn the tide of a fight. Funnily enough, Cormac McCarthy has actually gone on record to say that this scene was a direct reference to Paradise Lost, which further solidifies the judge's sinister nature. And all of this isn't by accident either. He didn't just randomly decide to pick up on a bunch of skills because he thought it would be fun. It's all a part of his twisted worldview. The judge is totally and completely obsessed with domination. Whether it be over a language or a book, in mastering it, he controls it. It's all just a means to gain leverage over his environment and the people around him. He draws sketches of undiscovered artifacts and then destroys them, making them lost to history. The fact that he is the only one who holds any knowledge of these things means he has some level of control even over the past itself. Time may forget these artifacts, but the judge will remember. And in remembering it, he owns it. This guy doesn't even treat dancing the same way we do. Normally, people treat dancing as a celebration, and while the judge certainly is celebrating, he doesn't treat it like a social event, but more like a ritual of eternal victory. He isn't just winning, he's celebrating the fundamental truth of his philosophy. A battle of any kind against the judge is a losing one. And even if you somehow manage to come out on top, you would only be proving his point for him. There is no winning against the judge. He will always be right. The judge is right when he says he will never die, because at the end of the day, it isn't about the man himself, but but rather the idea of him and what he represents. While other men represent things like stoicism and chivalry, the Judge represents war. We're already witnessing the death of stoicism and chivalry here in the West. But war endures. The Judge is the perfect personification of the worst in humanity and a cruel reminder of how unfair the world truly is. The Judge is a force of nature. Even long after the Judge's body has fully decayed and his spirit has left this world, he'll still be here, dancing.